How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Since the reception for my Clair Obscure video was so good, I decided to do a follow-up, and today we're going to be looking at some very interesting enemies from Clair Obscure. So let's get started. Now, before we start, I know a lot of you have asked in my other video if I can do environments. I'm trying to see if I can find something that I can show you. The problem is the environments in Clair Obscure are mostly comprised of mega scans and some marketplace assets, which I am going to have a dedicated video just on how Clair Obscure is using the marketplace assets, and we're going to have another video later down the line about mega scans as a whole. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe and all that. Also, just to let you know, I'm going to have the Paintress in this video. So if you haven't played the whole game, or if you care about not getting spoiled, I'm going to have a spoiler warning for when we get there. Just so you know, the Paintress will be here, and I'll let you know, when it's coming, so you don't get the game spoiled if you haven't gone to that part already. Now here in Blender, you can see that I have several enemies. Some of the ones that I found very interesting, and I know there's other interesting enemies. I couldn't find them all because of, again, everything is cut around. It's not very easy to find. So I brought some, like the P tank or pet tank, which is kind of like a lower level enemy. This guy was very interesting, and we'll talk about it in a second. This one, this was just too funny. This one, even though it's humanoid, it has some characteristics that we can look at. And this one, I don't know about size, because again, I haven't played the whole game. I haven't gotten to this when he is. I think he's a boss, and I think he is very big. They're all to the same scale that I got them from the game. So because I think this one is at least these two are the correct scale, I'm thinking this guy is to scale. I don't know. Just let me know in the comments down below if you got into the Tsor enemy or Tsor. I don't know how you pronounce it, but if you got into this enemy, let me know. Is this enemy as this big? Because the characters are like this size, and this is huge. So let me know if you've seen if this is the actual size or there's something off with the scaling. Now let's start with this one, which is the simpler one. And the reason why I got this character here was because it's very simple, but the design, it's pretty interesting, pretty cool. As you can see, I just have the diffuse here, diffuse texture, and this is just a ball that runs from you, from what I saw. And let's just look at the geometry. And just before I forget, I'm gonna have the stats here on the screens, because I know everybody asks about triangle count. Here it is. So just look at this part. I didn't forget this time. So the geometry of this guy, there's a bunch of triangles. So even if I remove the triangles, that doesn't change the topology much. To be honest, this isn't, from what I've saw in the game and how this character acts, this isn't not something that deforms a lot or that requires a very specific flow. But you can see things are very nice here. It's comprised of I don't know what happened here, but it's comprised of, pretty much kind of like rocks or bent over pieces of cliffs and all that. You can see that there is some care taken when it comes to the edges. So this is very important. So when you're doing this kind of geometry, like we spoke last time, you need this so you get that rim of light and it gets that nice look. Even though this is a character that doesn't exist, there's nothing in real life like this as far as I know. But there are certain things that you must do that happen in real life to get your character looking nice and appealing, because that's very important to make an appealing character. And you can see that there's chamfer all around this geometry. you've seen me talk about Substance Painter in all my videos, is because that's the most popular program that the industry uses to texture in video games nowadays. So one of the things that you do is you grab the high poly. The high poly is insane. So I know we've seen characters that are like 200,000 polygons. A high poly is something that would be like 2, 3, 4 million polygons just for that. It's not usable in game. It's just so you can get all this nice and crisp detail that you're going to be baking down. And with a curvature mask, you can use the program to kind of procedurally-ish create these borders around your character just to make it more interesting. So whenever we're painting textures and we're not using like photo scans, because mega scans are photo scans, when we're usually doing characters and we're painting the texture, not always do you like paint by hand every little detail. There are like generators and procedural ways that we can do it inside all of the software. Same deal with kind of like this moss. I'm going to assume it's moss that's growing out of this creature, and it's giving it this this type of look. All right, so the UVs for this character, as you can see it here, is broken down into several pieces. Because this character is hard surface, there's many places where you can just break out your UVs. They are still, I mean, in my opinion, they're still very neatly arranged, very nice overall. But one of the things that I mentioned in my previous Clair Obscure video is see how the sizes are a little bit similar, so nothing is bigger or much bigger than other things, because otherwise when you're painting the texture, then you're going to have different pixel sizes. So always take care of that and make sure that your UVs match whatever is surrounding it, especially when you're creating scenes. All right, let's move on to the obscure. The reason why I got this, even though it's a humanoid, is because of these interesting things in between. And I wanted everybody to look at this, because creating this kind of character is very interesting when you had like strings or saliva or something that's kind of like sticky and gooey. And well, this enemy is kind of like a Snickers bar, has a gooey center. So let's get into this and look at the geometry and isolate it. You can see that these characters are not as dense. They're still not really low poly, but they're not super dense. So in the case of this character, 89,000, so roughly 90,000 polygons. For today's standards, that's actually not that high. So if we get close, you can see that, you know, he is made out of rocks, and those rocks, that's just hard surface. That thing doesn't deform. So it just stays there. It doesn't matter if it has triangles, as long as you can keep the form for the bake. But let's look at the strings like in between. You can see that still these are triangles. Some of them have very nice quads, but overall it's not a lot about the topology on this one, because it's just, you know, strings that run from one side to the other. And if we go into, let's see, object mode, and let's isolate that, you can see that this isn't a watertight piece. So sorry, it's because I have several characters on screen that does that. But you can see that this isn't watertight mesh. So it's just a mesh that runs from one side to the other, and it clips into the character just like that without much fuzz. Because yeah, it's a nice, very nice ornament to have on this character. The face, well, the face I think is made out of rock, so it's not fantastic topology either. But you can see that the topology for the cloth, it's pretty neatly arranged. So that's very interesting. Same with the hand, we can see here that still a lot of triangles. So these things that they might hinge, you can see that the geometry here is very, very straight. All right, just like that cloth in the back. And this character in particular had several materials. So the P-Tank just had one material. This guy has several materials. You can see here, if we go to textured mode and we turn off the wireframe, you can see that one of the materials that I have here, which is the one that uncovers the torso, actually has an emissive. So what you're seeing in the center is an emissive texture, one that emits a little bit of light. If you go into my tutorial for Venom, you can see it more apparently because Unreal is more my thing. So if you want to see an emissive texture actually reacting how it works, I highly recommend that you go to a playlist and click on the Venom video, where I actually show how the emissive textures would work in an engine. Right now, I applied it here just to see how it looks, but I still don't think it's emitting as much light as probably was intended by the developer. And for the UVs of this one, since this has several materials, I had to break him down. You can see that this back part is laid down right here with his sword. And well, this particular texture already has an alpha channel, which is pretty good. You can see that just like the P tank is broken down into several pieces. Let me just go into the top base color. There it is. This one also is broken down into several pieces. Again, just keeping the size of it. You can see that the hands are much smaller than the actual torso of the character, of course, because that makes sense. And let's see this, like the center part of this character. Let me see where it is. So you can see that the center part is all unwrapped right here. And the rest are just bits and pieces scattered. That being said, this little stringy parts is just one cylinder. Like I mentioned in the previous video, the cylinder, you just seamed it from one side. It's very easy to unwrap. So you can see that here, pretty cool. And it's all well laid out. If we select everything, you can see that he is broken down into several pieces. Now this guy, I think he is pretty funny. I picked him because this kind of like face mask, and I wanted to see how the geometry for this all looked. So as you can see, the flow of this character, he probably has a lot more deformation than the other. You can see the loops around the face. So this is probably animated, or if it's not, then it's much easier to rig because of the whole flow just going around the mask. And same with these kind of hands, although this is just one piece, it's not 3 fingers. So you can see it's all stuck together, but it has one linear flow. Like it goes, even though it has a little bit of triangles here, but again, this part of your arm, like this part, usually doesn't deform unless you break your arm. But you can add some triangles here. You can get away with adding some triangles in parts where there's not going to be any deformation. And you can see some nice extra loops here for the parts of the hands where it, like, not the hand, sorry, the wrist, where it bends. All right, let's see what happens if we remove the mask. Then there's nothing inside this creature, but he does have a mouth back. As you can see right here, there's a mouth back, and there are eye sockets, because this thing doesn't have eyes, so you can see into it, and that's why those polygons are there, because again, you don't want to see any back faces. Now if we go into the UVs for this character, you can see that these UVs are kind of funny. The way that the mask is unwrapped, because he looks really surprised right here in this texture. So this was unwrapped as a single piece because, of course, it's just a mask. This is one of the things that's easier to unwrap is a mask. You just, you know, lay it down in 2 dimensions, the easiest thing. I'm just really, I just think it's really hilarious that when they unwrapped it, it kind of like got this shape where it's like, oh, very surprised. Everything else broken down very neatly. However, when it comes to the arms, you can see that the arms, this thing is open. So imagine if there was a seam like over here, and they open the flap into 2, kind of like pelting. Yeah, pelting, that's the word for it. And just open it in 2. And that's how they got it here. Let me see. All right, this particular character, and the reason why I wanted to look at this particular character is from the enemies that I was looking at, this is one of the ones that was very high in terms of poly count. So you can see it's 122,000. which again, it's not as high as the player characters, but still kind of high. And you can see all the detail here from like the mouth, all these two mouths like crying in pain, and this one's being calmed right here. It also has this mouth being open right here, and these things have a lot of geometry. So if we go into, let's go on texture. So over here, you can see like the sheer amount of geometry that these shoulder plates have. Just like not even for the face, because the face is just, since it's a rock, it's made out of triangles pretty much. And I mean, you can get away with a lot of stuff here, but the geometry here, it's very dense because of those whirly things that this character has, especially in this part of the shoulder plates. You can see like all this striation, how much geometry it takes. It's very impressive. Over here, this character is so detailed. When I first got it out, I thought this detail was normal maps. It is not. Everything about this character is geometry, which I think it's insane. Like, super good looking. Okay, this is another character that again I had to break down because it has several materials. So if we look at the clothes, very neatly laid out. So you can see the leg unwrapped as one single unit. Let's see this leg right here. Where is it? You can see the leg is completely unwrapped right here. It has some pieces all around, but same deal with this other leg right here. If we take out the top seems to be a little bit bigger because it contains the face. So if we put the whole thing together, you can see how it's broken down just for the torso. We'll see the rest in a minute. But again, these UVs have not been like super squared like we've seen other UVs, but sometimes you can't do that because the texture is just going to distort. So you need to arrange and pack things as neatly as possible. Sometimes the programs can do it for you. I remember Maya has a function where you can just pack the UVs and it does it pretty well. I know there's a Blender add-on that packs the UVs pretty well. I haven't tested it, I've just seen it. But yeah, there's sometimes you can just do this automatically. All right, it's raining pretty hard here where I live, so I don't know if you hear it. Hopefully you don't, but excuse me if you hear the rain behind me. And you can see how the hands are unwrapped. The unwrapping hands sometimes can be easy, sometimes it can be crazy. Like these fingers, you can see that they're seamed as usual, like in the center of the finger. And then that's just the palm from the look of it. This one, to me, this is the teaser. This is just kind of like a sewing kit, literal sewing kit, because looking at the materials, it's like sockle, torso, sewing machine, threads. I don't know. This is one of the things, like they sat down on a board and just threw darts at something and then just stuck this thing together, because I mean, it has a theme. It's like a sewing kit, but still, it like sewing machine by forehead, piece of yarn on the back with pins. Then there's this, I don't, more yarn, I guess. Then there's pins all around it. Then there's a yarn right here as part of the like waist of it. Then there is a spring. Then there's scissors, and then there's like, well, there's this cloth piece. And I don't know what this is. Probably something related to sewing. So this one is not only bigger, I assume, like, even if it's not to this scale, I assume this is one of the big bosses, big monsters. Pretty dense as well. And the densest of all the characters that you see in this video, 267,000 triangles. But this thing is just so many things on it, man. And over here, you can see the topology, pretty nice. I like the topology of the fingers. Very, very nice. And it looks like the geometry, it's all one thing. I thought they were like separated pieces that were clipping on each other, but no, it's all the same geometry. One of the things that I find, again, surprising is how dense they made small pieces like this knob. It looks like a knob that, I don't know, that you screw somehow. But see how this thing is just, it's all geometry, no normal maps. Every detail is geometry. One of the things that I imagine is because of the size of this character. They probably didn't want to use textures because the effect will be broken super quick, especially with these giant characters. It's just better to have the geometry in there if you want to portray like a very high end. And this is one point of contention. A lot of people have been telling me in the other video that this game isn't AAA. I know that this game is not AAA, but the assets are AAA. What you've been seeing here and what you saw on the previous video, these are AAA assets. These are super high quality assets. These are made by very talented people that could go on any AAA company. Doesn't matter what you think about the AAA studios. They do have the cream of the crop when it comes to talent. And all the assets that you see right here, they are AAA. Hence the title of my videos. My videos usually refer to the assets, not the game. So that's one of the points that you'll see right here. And I saw a lot of people commenting about that. Let's go to the UVs. All right, check out the arm. We got one of the arms here. And you can see that the arms are, each limb seems to be, although this limb is attached to the torso, each limb seems to have its own material. So pretty good resolution assigned to each part of this character. And you can see that, again, the UVs very neatly laid out. So things that are round, you can see they are almost perfect. And you can see the hands are broken down into several pieces. This is one thing you can get away with a character like this, even though the geometry is all like stuck together, but the way that it hinges, you can like seam it out. And since it's all kind of like a rocky formation, like each phalange and the knuckles and the back part of the hand, it's all one piece, like from hard surface, then you can kind of get away with just breaking the whole thing down instead of doing the joint hand like we saw on the other characters. Because as you can see, this hand, it's thrown out in several places, while the other character, you can see like the actual hand was unwrapped with the 5 fingers on the texture. So this is the limb that has the scissors, which I find hilarious again. But this one is a little bit more neatly arranged, just because this limb is more of like machinery all around, as opposed to just being like pieces of rock and whatnot, because the other one include his face. But again, when you're unwrapping things that are cylindrical like this, it's just a cylinder, they are very easy. You just seam it into one side and just... So when you're doing UVs, just for the people who are not 3D artists, all you got to do is you grab something like this cup. So because we're looking at cylinders, you grab something like this, and you can see where the sticker ends. That cylinder that you see right there, it'll be like the sticker around this cup. So that's pretty much what UVs are. You just have to put it in a 2D environment, or I'm sorry, in a 2D place, in a 2D texture. And that's how you get textures in game. Okay, before we move to this character, this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't finished the game, I'm going to show the Paintress. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can end the video right here. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, and all that. I'll see you in the next one, or just come back here once you finish the game. All right, here she is. As you can see, if you haven't seen her, well, this is the Paintress. This character, the spectacle of this character comes a lot from her hair, the physics of the hair, and the VFX that surrounds the world when you are in this level confronting this enemy. So this is just a much simplified version, if you want to see it that, because it's just the mesh of the body. And you can see that it is comprised out of rocks for the most part. Yeah, it's pure rocks. It's pure rocks all around, kind of floating there. But I've seen the, like in videos, the Paintress with the hair. It's amazing. Unfortunately, I could not find the hair texture for this character, and even if I did, it would just be, you know, just geometry that would be there. You wouldn't see the whole beauty of her hair in here because we don't have the physics in Blender. So let's just look at the geometry, and you can see that it's not very. She's not dense as dense as the other enemy was. Still a little bit denser than the usual enemy, but not as dense as the other enemy was. The other thing about this character is that since she is made out of rocks, just like the other character that we saw that was pretty much pure rocks and hard surface, there's a bunch of triangles on her because they're just trying to conserve all that detail. One of the things that's very particular is, even though she's an enemy, she shares, because she is a humanoid biped, she shares the same skeleton as the player characters. Hence, she is exactly in the same pose that you saw Loon in the previous video. So she has the same skeleton as the other characters, at least for when the body is concerned, probably not for the face. Now let's look at the UVs. And you can see the UVs follow the same pattern as that other enemy that we saw that was comprised out of rocks. You can seam these things. I personally try to make the seams where in places where it will not be seen, but because everything is hard surface on her, there's not that much worry. And you can just, when you change angle, just seam it right there and wrap it, and that's it. Do you agree that these are AAA assets, but it on AA game? I think we're going to continue seeing more of this because the tools are available. So we're going to start seeing more talented developers taking advantage of the tools that we have, like Unreal Engine, like the marketplace, and create this AAA experience. Because to me, AAA is a standard of quality. I know nowadays it just means that it has a high budget and it was done by like a studio corporation and whatnot. But this thing, it has all the hints of being a AAA game because of how much care and how much quality everything in this game has. So let me know what you think about this game. Do you think it's AAA? Do you think it's AA? Also, do you want to see more about Clair Obscure? I'm going to try to see if I can find environmental pieces that are not mega scans and have its own video. But please stick around, subscribe, make sure you like, because there will be a video when we're going to be talking about how this game is using marketplace assets. I mentioned in the other video, but I think it's very important how they use marketplace assets and made them seem awesome. It was a positive thing that this game was able to use marketplace assets because it's one of the things that allows such a small team to create a game as good as this one. And once again, make sure you like, leave a comment. It goes a long way. It really helps that the channel get out there. If you don't like Clair Obscure, let me know what other games you'd like to see me explore the models of. Thank you so much for watching all the way to this point, and I'll see you in the next one.